CBS News political director John Dickerson is with us. John, good morning. How does a state like a unionized state like Michigan become a right-to-work state, and what does it say about the politics of the country today?
Well, it becomes a right-to-work state by having a legislature that's dominated by Republicans, and it's extraordinary. We just had an election in which both candidates on both sides talked about the big themes in this country. And so you might think that politics might have stopped and settled for a moment, or maybe that politics is around this fiscal cliff. But the right-to-work question has been a central part of the conservative movement that has been pushing, sort of regardless of presidential elections. And this is a big victory for conservative forces who've been pushing for this in Michigan, right at the heart of the union movement.
Yeah, but the president won Michigan in the general election.
Doesn't matter. President won Michigan, and not only that, but union forces tried to put a measure on the ballot in that election in which the president's bringing all kinds of votes to forestall just what's happening right now. And that measure lost at the ballot box. So what we're seeing is forces that are basically totally delinked from the presidential race, from the presidential forces. And you know, conservatives took a pounding at the presidential level, but here they've been pushing, and they're about to get a victory here at the state level.
John, let's turn now to the fiscal cliff. We heard Major Garrett report that progress is maddeningly slow. You know, there's been so much attention on the Republicans and whether John Boehner can get his conference together on whether they'll go for increased tax revenues. But I keep thinking getting the Democrats to agree to any entitlement cuts may be harder than that, as you heard some of the Democrats say.
Well, it depends. The big prize is still finding some way to get conservative Republicans to vote with John Boehner. But you're right. I mean, this is the reason that all the details are in secret, is because negotiators are kind of suggesting and hinting at ways they may bend and flex. But the reason they never want any of those details to get public is that if one side is going to bend, they're going to expect the other side to bend too. And only until everybody gets their bending sort of aligned can they present them to their sides, because the minute Democrats hear that entitlements are going to be touched, they're going to want to know what they're getting in return. Same with Republicans. And so you're right, the same dynamic is at play. Republicans say, if we're going to raise tax rates, what are we going to get in return? And now Democrats are saying, wait a minute, raising tax rates isn't really much of a prize. We won the election if you're going to be asking us to do these big cuts in entitlements.
So what would happen if the president would go out tomorrow and say to John Boehner and the rest of them, okay, this is where I will cut education, this is where I will cut entitlements, this is where I'll cut Medicare. What would the Republicans do then?
Well, he's saying that in a way in these negotiations. They're saying
so
they're gingerly walking up to. Well, what they need is basically enough to give John Boehner something he can go back and sell to his Republicans. And Boehner can't go too far on tax rates, because he knows that the farther he goes on raising tax rates, the bigger a prize he'll need on entitlements. And Democrats say, wait a minute, this isn't a prize. This is the benefits that go to people, real Americans. And that's the question here. John Boehner needs something big that he can take back to Republicans, that he can say, look, yes, I know you don't want to raise tax rates.
Big enough, John? What is big enough?
Well, it's two things. One, size, numbers, dollars. He needs a big number that he can say, this is a huge amount of savings we're getting here. The other thing is symbolic, and that's what's interesting about raising the eligibility age. That has taken on a kind of big symbolic value, and so something like that might be something he could sell.
Yeah, John Boehner wants $600 billion in health savings. The president wants $350 billion. We're going to end up somewhere in between there. Exactly.
So why not offer in between? Go ahead.
Exactly. John Dickerson, thank you.